Well, welcome to radio station WDKT. WDKT. Well, you thought it was interesting ideas, but WDKT radio is very much an interesting idea. And in today's world, and particularly with the indictment of Donald Trump, more and more we are in a world where WDKT is the radio station we have to listen to and sometimes even report on. Yeah, well, what in the world radio station is that? Well, if you'll give me just a little time to do a little radio rant on Friday and yet keep a positive and a spirited mood for the weekend, I think you'll enjoy. And perhaps you'll maybe agree. Maybe you won't, but I think you will understand that truly we have to listen more and more to WDKT. Well, that's the teaser, and the radio program itself begins right now. Now, one of the things that I always encourage people to do is, particularly in the business that I'm in, learn to be a bit of a creative copycat. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, be creative. Always be looking for things that make you new and different and unique. Because if you're going to survive in this particular business of communicating with people, and keeping their attention, you're going to have to be creative and unique. Now, that's why I encourage you to do this kind of work, because you know what? That's now going to be true for most of you. You see, robots can do just about many things that you can do. And that's why I say the gal who can fix my air conditioning, the guy who can fix my plumbing, the person who can do drywall, all of those ordinary, extraordinarily needed jobs, they probably haven't got a robot who can do that. But if you're a financial analyst, there probably is a ready robot ready to do a faster and better job than you do. And even in the work that I do, it is found that those of you who are consultants who have what you would like to believe is special wisdom, they can find the same stuff just with their little AI instrument. And they can find it better organized and probably smarter than you are. So we're always in the business now of whatever we do, trying to be creative and a bit unique. We have to be a little bit different, and sometimes we may have to be quite different. So, creative and unique, but a copycat. Find some of the neat stuff that people are doing who are successful, and copy it as you can. But sometimes, please be kind and gracious and ethical by acknowledging that you are borrowing their genius, you are borrowing their ideas, and there's no copyright on them for the most part. You really can't copy an idea. Sometimes you can copyright a logo or a slogan, but you have to be very careful about that. By the way, you can't copyright a book title. That's surprising. Now, you can certainly copyright the book, that's for sure, but the title itself, that's kind of up in the air. So here's what we're talking about. Now, back in Minneapolis, St. Paul, which is my home for many years before we made our trek to Arizona, and because that's where our children were raised, and that's where my wife grew up, where I went to school, and where we still have a little bit of a legacy cabin in a beautiful northern Minnesota lake that is still a wonderful place. In fact, with all of the mobility of our world, when it comes to the children and the grandchildren, about the only place that they can say, this is kind of the place I remember, this is kind of home. There is no house that fits that description anymore, but for all of them, they can say, if they came after 1951, which they all did, there's the cabin. And it still hangs on 70 years. There's the cabin. Well, it's been upgraded some, but it's still a wilderness cabin. Well, that's part of my Minnesota story. But in Minnesota, there was, and there is, in Minneapolis, St. Paul, there is a newspaper columnist who, his name was Joe Souchere. And he was known a lot for his sports writing, but he was also just kind of a humorist, a bit of a traditional, kind of traditional curmudgeon who wrote regularly for the St. Paul Pioneer Press. Well, then one of the stations got him to get involved on a program, and it was called Garage Logic. And what he was saying is that garage logic is, that's where, the people who talk in a garage, listen to them. That's where common sense prevails. That's where rightness can be found. Garage Logic. And that became the name of his program, and it grew to be extremely popular. And as he said, unlike getting my hands dirty being an ink-stained wretch writing for the newspaper, I actually did quite well. Well, the program is no longer on the radio because Joe got smart and decided to go podcasting, because that meant he got all of the profitability himself. He didn't have to share it with the radio station. And he could be recording it or doing it anytime he wanted. And then it would be on, and anybody could listen to it anytime, because before that it was 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Now you can listen to it anytime and listen to it anywhere on anything. So the Garage Logic program has become a podcast. Well, that's where I learned WDKT. All right? Now, segue. Donald Trump was invited. He was indicted. I don't know if that was a slip or not. He was indicted yesterday. He was invited to show up for indictment for a charge. And that's the big thing. Now, let's go back to Joe. Joe's favorite thing, when people would say things or make charges, or with a talk show, they would say all different kinds of things. And occasionally he would press the button, and what would happen is this deep voice would come on, and it would say, "We don't know that. We don't know that." And that was his way of saying just that. You said that was true. Well, you know what? We don't know that. It may be true to you. You may think it is true, but we don't know that. And I've always loved that. I could steal it, but it's too good to steal. It's his. But WDKT would be a little bit of my creative abbreviation. Somebody could say something, I'd say, oh, that means that we better listen to WDKT on that. Well, here's what I'm getting at. If somebody was indicted for a crime, you usually could believe that there is something pretty wrong. Now, obviously, they're innocent until proven guilty, but very much that kind of indictment was serious. Now, Donald Trump has been invited, and I'm practicing the 72-hour rule. I'm not going to make any comment on it for 72 hours. Let's see what we find out in 3 days. And then let's find out what we find out when, quote, the indictment is done. And so when people are all of a sudden saying, this is it, this is what's going to happen, that's what is, Donald Trump is guilty of all these things, very simple. All of the things we are reading, as it said once in the Drudge Report, very serious charges. WDKT. We don't know that. See, it used to be that we could know that most of the things that might have been said or heard on the radio, we could at least take with a grain of salt and say, well, it may not be quite that way. There's a good chance now that it may not be that way at all. We don't know that. WDKT. So that's just something that I have learned to try and practice whenever I can. Didn't say it's not true. I just said we don't know that. Not yet. Not now. We'll see. Not yet. Not now. We'll see. And let's see what we will see. So I just wanted to share that with you on this Friday, that you can think about that, because I probably am going to have fun with it. I'll probably make a sounder that would say, WDKT. We don't know that. And that's true, unfortunately, of a lot of stuff. But I'll simply close it by saying there are some things that we know, and we know for sure, and they're true. And so part of what I'm going to ask you to do this weekend is to do what I say is TIT. Look at your life, look at your beliefs, and say, this is true. This is true. There's all kinds of things people are saying, whether it is the transgender movement or the gay pride or the conspiracy theories or about the war in Ukraine, whatever it might be, you need to say, TIT. This is true. This is true. This is true. And I would encourage you spiritually, emotionally, relationally, try it right there. Spiritually, emotionally, relationally, this is true. You know, God loves me. This is true. Write down the things that you do know, and you know them for sure. WDKT. And, WTIT. We know this is true. This is true. Hey, I'm Stan Houston. I can help you. The teaching, the coaching, the connecting that I can do. We have a team of people who can do that for you in your business. Reach out to me at stanhouston@gmail.com, stanhouston@gmail.com. And of course, you are all going to have to learn how to do the radio work, whether you do it or not. You have to have that creativity. Today I was talking to a gentleman who's retired, and he's very talented, and he's retired as a 2-star general, and he's got obviously quite a resume. But I was saying, dear friend, whatever you're going to do going on, you're going to have to learn how to be a MSE, a master at self-expression, and you're going to have to learn how to use the mass marketing media to tell your story, sell your product, gain goods and services, find clients and customers. You're going to have to learn how to be on the radio. I'm pretty sure of that. Again, stanhouston@gmail.com, stanhouston@gmail.com. Have a blessed weekend. I don't know what I'm going to do because no one's told me what I'm supposed to do yet, but I know it'll be a good weekend because I'm loved and people care about me, and I have been blessed in so many ways. So it'll be a good weekend, and I trust the same will be for you. Bye for now.